Canon just announced a massive release of two new mirrorless cameras, the R1 and the R5 Mark II. In this video, we're gonna do 5 fast facts about the R5 Mark II, since that is much more video specific than the R1. If you're wondering what the basic highlights of this camera are and who it's best for, then make sure you watch the rest of this video. Thanks for tuning in today, guys. I'm Spencer from Profit and Pixels, and today we're talking about the EOS R5 Mark II from Canon. The first thing I want to point out about this camera is that it is very, very versatile. It can do a lot, both for stills and especially for video. That means if you're in a role, say at a marketing agency or you're in-house marketing for a company and you want something that can do both stills and video for you at a high level, the R5 Mark II actually does a great job on both fronts. So you can have a 2-for-1 without really sacrificing much in terms of quality. So between the improved resolution and the improved autofocus, for photography, this is going to work really well for landscape and product photos, as well as action and sports photos where you need to have crisp images despite motion in the frame. And then obviously all the internal codecs, which we'll get to, make this a very powerful video camera. And so I think this is a very, very versatile option for those of you who do hybrid work between both stills and video. Speaking of codecs, the second thing on our Fast 5 Facts list about this camera is the incredible strength and versatility of the internal recording codecs Canon is announcing. Between the CF Express slot and the SD card, you can do all of these codecs in camera without having to run anything out to an external recorder, which is pretty incredible considering you can do 8K 60 frames per second raw video internally. You can also shoot 8K at 10-bit compressed video if you want longer record times. And then if you step down to 4K, you've got 60 frames per second at SRAW, which is a different flavor of RAW, as well as 120 frames per second at 10-bit compressed codec, again, giving you a lot longer time to record. Speaking of record time, fast fact number 3, the R5 Mark I had a real limitation when it came to recording time with all the codecs they packed into the camera. When that was released around 2020, a lot of people didn't know that it was so limited. About, I think, 15 minutes or so, it would start to overheat at some of the higher end codecs. And what they've done for the R5 Mark II is not only extend your record time internally, but they've developed a very ingenious solution, which is to sell you a additional battery grip with a cooling fan built in. The battery grip plus cooling fan solves 2 problems. It gives you more power to not drain your battery as fast, and it also provides additional cooling to what's going on inside the body to keep you from overheating as quickly. So real quick, without the additional cooling fan battery grip, you can expect 8K 30 frames per second to record for about 26 minutes before you overheat. And then for 4K 60 frames per second, you can actually get about 45 minutes of record time before you overheat, which honestly is a lot longer than I expected. I don't think that that's very limiting at all. Unlike the Canon S9 review I did recently, this is a lot longer time internally to record before you run into trouble. Now, if you add on the battery grip with the fan, you can expect to take that 8K 30 frames per second from 26 minutes all the way up to 106 minutes of record time. And the 4K 60 frames per second, you can go from 45 minutes to about 2 hours or even more, depending on your environmental heat, which is a really long time. That's more than enough for almost any shooting situation where you have to take a break. So I think this is a vastly improved part of the camera compared to Mark I. And while it is $400 to get that battery grip, I do think if you shoot longer form documentaries or even maybe a wedding or something like that, this will really let you not have to worry about running out of record time in the middle of something important. All right, fast fact number 4, Canon claims that their autofocus, which I'd say is industry leading or at least neck and neck with Sony as far as reliability for tracking autofocus, is even better in this iteration. They specifically call out using it for video. They have added an additional processor. It's called a processor boost, but it's essentially like a next door neighbor to the main image processor that's only job is to work on autofocus recognition. And so they'll stand behind their autofocus and say, for video work, this is fast enough and reliable enough. You can use it in a high-end production. If you're already a fan of Canon's autofocus, you're going to probably love and trust it even more. And if you haven't tried it or switched, I think you're going to be very impressed with the ability for the autofocus to do what it's supposed to do when it's supposed to do it. All right, finally, fast fact number 5, how much does this camera cost? Well, the body's $4,300. So it's in that second tier range. It's outside of that prosumer level where you're talking $2,000, maybe $2,500 for a body. It's in that second tier, but it's obviously way, way lower than your full-on cinema cameras, which can be $15,000 to $100,000 for a body. So it's manageable for owner operators. It's also something I'd really recommend renting as soon as you can, testing it out and maybe using it for a project or two without owning. But that's the price point. The grip is $400. And then of course it's an EF mount because it's Canon. So if you don't have Canon glass, that's going to be a large investment. But if you already use Canon glass, it's going to integrate very seamlessly. All right, guys, that does it for this quick 5 fast facts review. Again, I think this is a really strong buy if you're in marketing, if you're doing digital agency work and you need a versatile camera, and if you're doing a larger project and you want your A camera to have great optics and really high-end codecs, I'd really consider renting this and pairing it with something from the Canon family for your B and C cams. If you found this video helpful, please hit that like and subscribe buttons to help other people find this content. And if you're looking for gear recommendations for your business, for your church, or for you personally, make sure you check out the free video gear guide linked in the description below. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.